The opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Return the Jewels. Also, there's explicit language. Welcome to the 13th episode of Return the Jewels. This is a very special one. But first things first, thank you so far for supporting us and listening and watching. We appreciate everything. Like, share, subscribe, all that deal. You find us on all the audio platforms and on YouTube. Hopefully, you keep looking at YouTube because then, you can see the video and you can see any sorts of whatever. And, I'm trying to learn these algorithms a little more and trying to really streamline this work. So thank you for bearing with me as we get better. um, Objectively, we will be getting better every week, and that's something I'm going to hold myself to. But not that we're doing bad, because this episode, and I say it every week, is very special. Um, so my very close friend and one of my mentors, Chef Harold Villarosa, came back to join us today, and you probably saw him on our second episode ever, and that was like during the height of quarantine in the summer, and we were kind of also like figuring out the voice of this podcast. Not that we figured it out yet, but we're getting close. We're getting closer. Um, you can you go to our website, you leave feedback there. There's also the merch store if you want to wear any of the cool get any of the cool merch. I've redesigned all of it, made it like more streetwear cool, like, and returnthejewels.com. And you'll actually see one of our shirts. Chef Harold's wearing it in this episode. But about the interview, so last time we had him on, we talked about the Escoffier system and how it marginalizes black and brown people in fine dining. But this time was more of an introspective episode. We talked a lot about like personal growth, identity, purpose. What do you serve? What are you doing with your time? Why are you doing what you're doing with your time? A lot of things that people don't want to think about, me especially. And this episode really hits home for me because we recorded it a day after that Chef and Harold and I had a personal conversation, in which he gave me some tough love on certain things, and I'm having my whatever crisis of identity, whatever. Um, but we talked about it on this episode, and it's something that I know I wanted to get in conversation so that I could personally rewatch this when I need to access certain data or whatever, in terms of processing certain things or making certain decisions or framing how I move. you know so we talked about that, and we all the identity stuff, and also, of course, I know, we may have some people just tuning in to this podcast or show or brand, wanting to hear about, Bon Appetit, wanting to hear about Chef Harold's take on Bon Appetit and what's going on. And so we did get into that a little bit. And, Chef Harold's a very busy guy. So, we got, this is kind of a shorter interview because, he had a really stacked day. But we are very, very lucky that we're able to get him on, especially during this time. So that being said, you'll really enjoy this episode. It's worth multiple rewatches, for real, for real. uh yeah, check it out. Hey everyone, so today we have my really good friend and mentor, Chef Harold Villarosa. Now, did I say that right, first of all?
Yes.
Okay, because a lot of times I see the VILL and I'll think Via Rosa. And
Yeah.
so, and this is a question I've been asking on every episode now, is if I say your name right, because we've been talking about this thing where if you're a minority or if you're first generation, and you grow up in this country, a lot of times you anglicize your own first or last name or both
That's right.
for different things you say just because you want to be palatable. to your
Right.
or your American environment. And so I'm trying every episode to make it a point to get the guest's name right, or get it how your mom would say it. How would your
Yeah.
mom say your name to so okay, so Chef Harold Villarosa. Now we had you on the second episode, which
Right.
started out, and when you were on, this was like in the summer, and since then a lot has happened. Uh, you got this new gig, and you're on air talent for Bon Appetit magazine and video, um, and you're continuing to do your community projects. What like I know when we had the episode, and everyone here, you can watch it. We were talking about quarantine. Quarantine was really heavy at that time. No one was really going out. All the restaurants were really in a dire situation. No one was doing really the outdoor dining. So, can you kind of walk us through how it's been the last? I think it's been like 5 months since
Yeah.
we last talked. On
Well, I mean, restaurants are still closing down, and I think a lot of people are still unemployed, especially in the restaurant business. And there's no kind of help in sight. The government's not really trying to help.
yeah,
the The election itself is still up in the air somewhat. I don't know. It's weird,
yeah, we're more
but
than a month out.
yeah. And so a lot of things are super desperate. But you know, I think as New Yorkers and also as restaurant workers, we're pretty resilient. So
Yeah,
everybody's trying to figure out a way to do it. Like some people like myself pivoted into the food media space.
right.
Some other people are doing private stuff, cooking for people at their homes, which is big right now because nobody wants to leave their homes and go out to eat dinner or whatever. And people are just really trying to make things work.
Yeah, I've noticed a general trend, I guess, across all industries is, before quarantine, you have a very strict hierarchy in place. And we talked about the Escoffier system last episode, or episode 2 rather, with you. But in social and professional settings, you have this rigid hierarchy in place. And then when this quarantine happened, you see people, it's kind of an equalizer, because it's really about what's the entrepreneurial ability of different people in the hierarchy. So it's like
Yeah.
you see them do their own brands, their own unique things, and we're starting to see those track more than the way things have been going, like they were before
Yeah.
quarantine.
Well, a lot more people are on their phones, and
Yeah,
so if you have great branding, like the Sosarap guys
yeah,
from Queens, and all these kind of things, you will get activations. So I think everybody right now is becoming more of a social entrepreneur, and everybody's like trying to figure out what works for them, and then they're finding out that they don't need a 9 to 5
right.
or to work for somebody. They can do it on their own, and it's pretty amazing to see that open up a little bit because that really kind of opens the conversation about the middle class and
Yeah,
how the middle class was built in this country because people were taking chances on doing their own thing. And I think it's a different kind of revolution now with the bandwidth of the internet, all these free apps, all these kind of things that you can really use as a tool to get yourself out there. And I mean, it's amazing. It's an amazing thing to see.
yeah. And I mean, just a note off of that, in the last couple of months, I've had the fortune to accompany you on a couple of these really dope things that just kind of transpired out of our shared isolation. And what I'm talking specifically about is Project Barkada.
Right.
That's uh, in Tagalog. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Okay, in Tagalog, it means a closely knit group of friends. Is that correct?
Yep. That's right.
Okay, and so the way I see it is this group you have Project Barcata. It's Filipino American restaurant owners, artists, photographers, everyone in the community, and I got to accompany you to like a couple of block parties where the different food carts were out. The lines were insane. And
Yeah,
but anyways, I was kind of hoping you could talk about Project Barkada for a minute.
yeah, sure. I mean, Project Barkada really started by three people, Joey, Deirdre, and Lugao. And they were just a bunch of friends just trying to do something while the pandemic was kind of revving up. It was like early February.
Yeah.
And the first things they really wanted to do was serve the community. So, you know, I was one of the first chefs that they asked to cook for the frontliners. And we cooked like crab fried rice for I think it was like twenty nurses at a nearby hospital. And then from there they just started doing a lot of the community work, and throughout the whole summer that's what they did was like, you know, engage some Filipino restaurant people, and they started cooking food for the frontliners. And then from there the network kind of grew because they started meeting all these different chefs, and then from there it became a collective.
Yeah.
And then, you know, from like three people now there's over 40 vendors, you know, like that block party you were talking about was a big one, you know, that spanned into three blocks in the Lower East Side, and
It was
it was
huge.
amazing. It was amazing. Yeah. So now they're really focused on community outreach, using the Barcata platform to help, you know, the typhoon victims in the Philippines. They just did a fundraiser, and they just did like a food drive in the Philippines like the last couple of days with like, you know, food and also like toiletries and stuff like that. Um, you know, everybody in the community, especially in Filipino community, they're all different types of people. You know, from artists
Right.
to you know, food to designers. So, you know, we have so many people in the space, and it's just great to see everybody coming together. Especially we're all in the same age group too. You know, so it's amazing.
Yeah, and I think there's something about that in being in the because like my exposure to Project Barkada is a few months after it's starting. So I'm not seeing the three people. I'm seeing a huge community,
That's right.
and it feels like just the fact, okay, that it started with three people in the community, and not just in the community, they built a community, right? But they've got this brand that everyone in the community can wear as a badge,
That's
essentially,
right. Yeah.
and we all have shared equity in this badge and brand, and it's going to influence us. It's going to influence us, and we can influence it. And so now, when it's kind of like indexing,
Yeah.
where like if I'm a complete stranger and I'm trying to understand different cultures, now one of the top things on the index will be Project Barkada, and then I look under the sub indexes of that, and I get to see all these different facets of Filipino American culture in New York.
That's right.
And also, by it's bi-coastal, and then yeah, and then in the Philippines, and it's expanding. And I just wanted to acknowledge that on this episode because I know it's something that you've been getting heavily involved in since we last talked. And
Hmm.
I know the people that may be listening to this or watching this probably just want to know about Bon Appetit, but there's also a lot more that you do that goes under the public radar. Like it's the community work. I know, like you spend a lot of time in kitchens teaching children how
Hmm.
different discipline and how to cook and how to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
responsible adults.
Yeah. I mean, it's really you know, the pandemic really kind of hindered our classroom work, but
Yeah.
we've done a lot of Zoom calls, and I worked with the Newark School District this past summer. We did a couple of Zoom classes with kids, especially closer thanks to Thanksgiving, where we taught them how to make side dishes so they can help their parents,
Yeah.
you know, with dinner this year since it's such a small gathering. Also, we worked with kids in the Bahamas, where we're going to be, you know, reigniting their passion for food, and the hospitality agency, where we're going to have them kind of receive a certificate. and be able to show that and be able to get jobs in those big resorts down in the Bahamas. And so, we're really trying to just work on facilitating the programming. But because of COVID, there's we can't really do the one-on-ones, which are very important. So we've done our best to do the Zoom calls and
Yeah,
teach them how to cook, and it's been really good.
that's good. Now, I want to talk about. Okay, so we hung out yesterday, and I'm kind of going through maybe a crisis of identity. I'm 33, minority, all that stuff, and I feel like my crisis of identity isn't so unique in that I feel like there's
Right.
probably millions of people going through the same thing. And so we had a good talk yesterday where I got some tough love, which I appreciate more than anything, and but ultimately what it was is you gave me a new mantra, or we call it a manther, but a
Hmm.
mantra, and I don't know if you want me to say it or if you want to say what it is,
Hmm.
but
Well, it's a translation of a mantra that a monk spoke to me about. It's don't attach yourself to the fruits of your actions, which is the original mantra.
right,
But I translated it to don't attach yourself to the outcomes of choices that you're making.
right,
So, I mean, for myself also, at that age of 33, when I was at that age, I was going through it too myself, looking for identity, trying to figure out who I am. Married, had all these things going on, but at the same time, I was unhappy.
yeah,
So I think a lot of people um, during this time right now, during COVID, are going through mental health, not issues, but like mental health check-ins.
yeah,
We've have so many crutches to from social media to Netflix to Amazon to drugs throughout this time, but now this pandemic is stretching.
yeah,
It's stretching now. It's past the 9 month period. So now everybody's kind of
rating,
breaking. Everybody's breaking right now. They're reaching the limits of their minds, and they don't know how to maintain. And I think the conversation yesterday was really about how do you maintain. How do you continue the work that you're doing? How do you continue persevering? But at the same time, how do you continue checking on yourself, making sure that you're okay mentally, and to get yourself ready for the next phase of whatever is coming up? Because 2021 is going to be a lot harder. Like people cannot hustle the way that we used to. You have to like now you have to have at least 7 different hustles just to maintain your lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? So I think the conversation we had yesterday was really just a conversation that I had with myself a few years back, and I had a conversation with myself a few months ago, and I was just giving you the conversation I had with myself because at the end of the day, as a man in this world, mental health has always been kind of a stigma, from therapy, especially for minority groups, right?
yeah.
From therapy to talking about your feelings to
You know,
crying.
we don't acknowledge it. We rarely
No,
have the space to acknowledge it in our
right.
closest groups, and
That's right.
um it's kind of weird. It's kind of like you feel guilt to have emotions almost,
Hmm.
and
Which is a stigma that's been placed on males for a long time because we're supposed to be the providers, we're supposed to do all this, but we're not as emotionally intelligent as females are. Females, they from the age they get their first period, they're already emotionally intelligent. You know what I'm saying? Like they're already tapped into what their body is going to be like. They're tapped into
um,
what their relationships are going to be like. They're getting harassed every day, getting catcalled every day. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're already having these reflective moments in their minds every day. And I think as men, we don't get that chance to do that. No chance to like reflect on the day, reflect on kind of the work that has happened, or the things that kind of get you going. And I think you know we need to start doing that as a community.
And I think yeah, yeah, no, I mean, they're women are exposed to a much more adult process, or a much more adult world than we are,
Oh yeah, for sure.
way earlier. And it's and as you grow older and you think about that, the more and more fucked up it is.
But look, we're having this conversation now at our 30s.
Yeah,
Females have been having this conversation in their 20s. You know what I'm saying? Like
even before.
we're
Yeah.
yeah, we're so behind, and also we're so
Entitled.
we're entitled. We have it so easy, as men. You know what I'm saying? Like we can work, we can move through the ranks faster than women can. And I think now with the pandemic and all these kind of things, it's coming to a headway where we need to get our shit together. You know what I'm saying? And be able to carry the leadership roles that need to be done in the next few years.
Yeah, and then the thing you told me yesterday that really kind of fucked me up was like, so I'm realizing my pattern, or I'm starting to realize my pattern. And what you said yesterday was that I'm not taking time to really talk to myself or internally reflect. And I had to internally reflect to realize that that was true, because like because like I stack work to escape uh figuring out why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, which is funny, right? Which is fucking, which is the thing that people do all the time, and it might not be just work; it can be vices. You know what I'm saying? Just doing all these type of things to keep themselves from not pushing themselves into a greater atmosphere, a greater stratosphere.
And I mean, there's a certain comfort in knowing you're always busy. But if you're busy without a general strategy or aim, that busyness will break you. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it will happen for everybody. I don't know anybody that's resilient enough to that process.
Right. You always gotta check in, man. Check in with your body. Make sure you take time to like get a massage or go and sit in a park and just look at the world around you. Just to reflect. And I think we got to take that time now. We have the time. We have the time now. You have the time to go figure out who you are,
Yeah.
find out if those relationships that you're with are toxic or not. And stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like now's the time to do it. And so when 2021 hits and 2022 hits, you're ready for whatever is coming next.
Yeah. I mean, and for all the things you do, and you're building your skills and everything that you've been doing in this pandemic, not necessarily you personally, but people generally. I think the big thing that stopped me in my tracks really thinking about this is, even if you're building all these skills, you're doing all these things, you're maybe distracting your mind, but you're moving forward, not necessarily in the direction you want to move forward, but you're moving forward in directions. Having to take stock of what your skill is, and also translating that to being marketable and how to get paid, is one of those internal like fights or projects or puzzles that I feel like everybody I meet in this age group has to either work on or has worked on, and they've gone through this like really intense emotional barrier for having to get through to the other side. So like yesterday when I had the conversation with you, I did a lot of thinking. I talked to a couple other close people in my life, mentors, and it was the same conversation. Same, like it wasn't referencing, hey, I've been having these conversations. It was the same words being used, same phrases. And maybe that happens to me every day, but it was yesterday that I kind of started to notice the pattern. And I, like, at first I was like, yo, this feels kind of like an indie movie, or something, and I'm the brown Eugene Levy. Like, um, but later I'm just thinking about it, and it's like one thing I think about minorities, first generation, people that grow up in this country marginalized, is that we operate, even if we operate at excellence, and move mountains, will be still be so insecure about what we're doing. The imposter syndrome runs really deep. So I'm very, very fortunate to have people like you, other people in my life to that can do an assessment of me objectively, and getting the feedback of my objective third party assessment is something of such value, I could never afford it.
Well, somebody did that for me. You understand me?
Really?
Yeah, it's a thing that's been passed on from generation to generation. If you really have people that look out after you, there's been it happens, man. That conversation I had with you yesterday happened to me 4 years ago. You understand? So at the end of the day,
It was a
it's
doozy.
yeah. So at the end of the day, it's your job now to pass that knowledge on to the next person that you meet that's younger than you, so we can continue these conversations with each other as men to understand that it's okay. It's okay to be emotional. It's okay to open up to, especially women. It's okay to open up to women. It's okay to share your feelings with them. It's okay to communicate with them.
To be
And I think
vulnerable.
be vulnerable, because at the end of the day, that's also showing your growth as a human being, but also your relationship might even be better than what it was before because you're showing that vulnerability. And the vulnerability really is about having a knowledge of who you are now. And I'm not talking about like what you like or don't like. I'm talking about your identity. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
know I'm first generation Filipino American. I grew up in the South Bronx. This is the way I am, and this is how it's built from my experiences, right? And so once you know that, and once you stand behind that, and you're not afraid of what happens afterwards because you've detached yourself from the outcomes already,
Right.
you're in a good place, man. Because at the end of the day, people can say whatever they want, but as long as you continue, uh, following those paths and doing the work, you're gonna win. So
And I think a huge part of it about the identity thing is purpose or perceived purpose.
yes,
Like,
yeah.
for up until now, maybe the last few years, I feel like everything I've really done, I've just been kind of doing, because I know that that'll get me outside validation. Or no, no, I assume validation means positive feedback
Mm-hmm.
for whatever I'm doing, even if it's not necessarily what I want to do, because I don't truly understand yet what I want,
Mm-hmm.
which that's the thing I'm gonna work on. But you know, not knowing what I want, but what you do, and I think that this is like in the case for a lot of people in maybe early mid 20s, late 20s, even early 30s, but it's around this time where you don't necessarily know what you want. You are so fucking lucky if you can figure it out at a young age, know what you want and build towards it. But a lot of people are kind of flailing around. Yeah, they do incredible work. Yeah, they're very competent, hyper competent at the things they do, but they don't necessarily like them. That's why you see people with like midlife crises and things like that, because it's like, I have put all of this time and effort and work, and maybe even have become an expert or connoisseur at this thing, but I don't want it.
And that happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
Because people rush into things and force themselves to fall in love into something that they felt can gain them financial freedom, or at the same time give them status in a community. So, I think that, like it's happening now. Like, people in our age group are finally realizing, validation doesn't come from uh, positive feedback or anything like that. Validation is coming from the inside of you. You know,
Yeah.
you can validate your own. You can give yourself a own blue check. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to get a blue check from fucking Instagram. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
as long as you know who you are, and as long as you walk with purpose and know what your kind of denominator is. You know, and the other thing too that kind of put me over the top is I know my number to live. You understand? Like
What do you mean?
I know my number. Like I know what number I need to make each year to be able to live, to like get food in my stomach, pay my bills. I know my number already. So anything on top of that is cherries, bro. So I'm not searching. I'm not searching. I'm not looking. I'm not asking for five Lamborghinis. You know what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying to you? I'm not asking for a helicopter. I'm not asking for because
That
none
all
of those.
sounds like a headache.
Yeah, none of those matter, man. Look at Kobe. Kobe had all of it, everything, every single thing that you wanted. Kobe had, and what happened?
Yeah.
So it don't matter, bro. Know your number, live within your means, and then everything on top of that, you just build for your legacy, bro. That's it. And if your number 65,000 a year and you're making 250,000 a year, then like you're winning already. You understand what I'm saying? You're winning already. So just being able to know what your lifestyle is gonna be, living within your means, and then knowing that knowing your purpose. My purpose is to serve men. That's my purpose through hospitality or through friendship. I'm here to serve men. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna. It's everything that I do and that work. It's always gonna be attached back to that. So yeah,
And just to clarify, by serving men, you mean all of humanity, the
yep.
people.
All of men, men and women. Yep.
Yeah.
All of men. Yep.
And, I feel like purpose comes from ideological exploration. You know, I feel like the more you find people that are uh, what you perceive to be successful, sure, or are successful, whatever metrics you use, but people that are doing their thing with perceived purpose and are moving and grooving and, are essentially untouchable because they're so much in their routine and everything. But I feel like they get to that point from all of this ideological exploration, right? So it's like you still have to go through these steps of pure self reflection, which includes like destruction and rebuilding and all that, to get to whatever your personal ideology is so you can narrow your focus around it. And if your personal ideology is to make the most money or whatever, you become a finance bro. If your personal ideology is to serve, you figure out how you serve, right? You do your community work. I don't know what my ideology is. I think it's about what we're trying to do here with this podcast is you know uh, deprogram a lot of rhetoric and
Mm-hmm.
create conversations that are more inclusive, and but also create conversations that tap at like a nuance of different types of like race relations and vestigial effects of colonialism and all this stuff that we don't necessarily always see. So like all these conversations that we're having on these episodes are so niche. And I don't know if that's because of my philosophical aim, maybe for increasing representation of different colored faces that don't sound like how you think they sound.
Yep.
But like I say all that to say your ideology that you went through all of this shit, all the training, all the work, all the personal reflection, the vulnerable moments, lack of confidence, overconfidence, all of that over the years, you find your ideology to serve. Now, I'm going to make a guess and guess that this ideology wasn't always there. The younger
Mm.
chef maybe didn't necessarily believe this was the purpose of what he's doing in his career. Am I right?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there was some glimpse of it. I've always enjoyed cooking for my friends. I've always enjoyed hosting. I've always enjoyed throwing parties, stuff like that. But this is a bigger purpose. We're talking about really taking the last chunk of my life and really purposely going out there and making a difference in any capacity, in any from food insecurity to social entrepreneurship to marginalized neighborhoods, all of it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm dedicating my the rest of my life to it,
Yeah.
which is a lot of people have done it. It's an undertaking, and one of my mentors told me, success really comes after you put in 20 years in obscurity, and it's about working at it every day and being able to push it every day, and then the metrics of 20 years and seeing what have you done in those 20 years. You can look back and really reflect on the work that you've done and then continue it. So yeah.
And then it's like at that point, 20 years down the line, what are the metrics by which you evaluate the work that you've done? And, knowing our conversation from yesterday and then in general, I can almost with certainty say that at that point, the metrics for which you evaluate your past work don't involve anybody else's opinions.
No, it's really about you. It's been 7 years now. 7 years for me, from once I start, like once I realized what I wanted to do, and I put my foot down and really, and in whatever capacity it has been, through the teaching the kids to reentry reform that I'm working on, to working with multiple organizations all over the world to create a movement. Like, it's only been 7 years, bro. So
Yeah.
it's barely in its infancy. So once I hit the 13-year mark, that's when you really see the impact that you've done. And it just comes down to is what does it look like for the next 20? Like,
Damn.
or your last 25 summers left you have in this planet. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you gonna do in those last 25 summers? You know what I'm saying? Like, so for me, it's really about serving men, creating communities where people have the tools to be successful. So when I'm gone, they can continue to pass that on to the next person. So hopefully 3 generations, 4 generations down, we'll see that utopia we've been looking for, where there's peace in the world, where there's no color lines and we all are under one flag. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I know we talked about this kind of on the early episode we had months ago. We were both in completely different headspaces, but we still talked about this kind of thing. It's like the way to build generational wealth isn't necessarily just money. It's a lot of sharing of information, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have, even by nature of identity politics or whatever, but if you have, advocates, older advocates, younger advocates, but people in your community that will root for you that you're not necessarily competing against, you know, it is almost imperative that you capitalize on those relationships and energize them and let them energize you.
Yeah.
And so we talked about how we create generational wealth. What is the reason to create generational wealth, and why do we have a lack of generational wealth? And it all stems from the thing we kind of talk about on this podcast, is this the effects of colonialism, right? Colonialism, just by its nature, robs, the I guess host countries of, if you think of it as parasitic, it robs host countries of their wealth. And it's not just material wealth, it's a lot of like information, generational information that gets extracted and appropriated and whatnot. But it's like part of the thing we're seeing with the rise of intersectionality, all these different movements, the pendulum swinging back from fascism, is different communities creating and solidifying by sharing practical, technical information with each other. Here's how you
Yeah.
get the bag, and that's it. Like, just technical information. Oh, here's how you protect yourself. Here's how you get the bag. Here's how you do this. And that's enough to spread, because the inception of ideas is way faster than the distribution or the sharing of money and resources. And
Yeah, that's true.
that's
And
key.
that's been an issue with our society. We're really coming out of it a little bit right now because the information is so fast right now. People can get information whenever they want it. And I think the people in our age group who's, seen the evolution of the iPhone and seen the evolution of phones itself,
Yeah.
we're in a special place because we are kind of the generation that's seen the struggle, but also seen the ease of of technology. So I think if we put our heads together, we'll be able to be the ones to start kind of the change, the patterns all across our age group, and seeing what it looks like in the future, and be able to set that up.
One thing I've noticed is like, bro, the kids are so much smarter than us and politically
Yeah.
active, and they care more. So that's like, for all the shit that you see all the time and things that make you sad or feel helpless or powerless, to know that this next generation under us really actually does care, is more uh, effective at using these different technologies and for
Yeah.
good purposes. A lot of people are rejecting those old, the way their parents think or teach or train them to think, just because you're seeing with this mass information what's right and what's wrong. Now, I'm saying all of this kind of to transition to the elephant in the room.
Hmm.
Is so you you just took on a new job. Well, it's not really new, it's like a couple months ago, but you've been having talks back and forth. And so for Bon Appetit magazine, and they're uh you're a part of a whole new slate of talent,
Hmm.
that and the new videos that are coming out. Everyone's aware of the controversy they had, and there's plenty of literature about it. But what I really want to focus on is, you're part of this new slate of talent, and what I'm seeing personally, just like in internet comments and feedback, they talk about, and it's a thing we talk about on the show all the time, is people want to label you and the other chefs that are on as tokens, essentially, because it needs to fit this narrative that Bon Appetit is overcorrecting. But because I know you personally, I know that the good you create in the community, and the reason you're taking this, the reason you took this job is because as a person, that as an influencer in the community, and with the ability to take these deep concepts and try to relate them to your community, that you would take this as a way to continue that work, essentially. And I
Yeah,
feel like,
it's a bigger platform, right?
right,
And I think more people that are not from the community don't understand what we're talking about, or don't understand the moves that's happening.
right,
You know, the new slate of people that are coming on are mostly females,
right.
mostly minorities, mostly African American descent. So we're talking about Bon Appetit really taking the charge on making sure that they're going to lead the conversation. And it might look a little, I don't know, like shallow right now, because
Right,
they're just getting everybody their foot wet
right.
in the video field, because none of us ever did video before.
Huh.
We're all community people. You know what I'm saying? So they're just
You can't
teaching us.
tell. You can't tell, by the way, that no one's done a video before. They all these, like, I've been watching the new videos. Everyone's
Yeah.
great. Everyone's great. The food is great. Like, it's a shame that there's a lot of trolls in the comments.
No, it's fine though, because we were prepped for it. Before we took on the job, they said that this was going to happen, and they wanted us to be ready, but then they wanted to really have the hard conversations down the line.
Yeah,
All the shows that are going to be coming out are all about talking about social justice, talking about all the work that needs to get done to make changes in the restaurant industry. And this is the platform where you can really uh, put a spotlight on those kind of conversations and really put everybody on blast that's been
Yeah.
kind of not doing the right things. So I think if people step outside of kind of what's happening at Bon Appetit and they step outside and kind of just look from the outside in and have that kind of viewpoint, I think they'll understand what's really happening, because
Right.
it's a fascinating process, but it also shows that the leadership of Bon Appetit is willing to take a hit for the next year,
Right.
willing to take a hit, willing to pay talent X amount of dollars. Doesn't matter if their viewship is low, viewship is high. They're willing to take the hit so they can be the change that needs to happen, and they're willing to be the ones to 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 eat all of the dislikes, eat all of the bad comments, all the mistakes they've been doing. They're willing to do it, to be the first to do it, instead of like talking about it. They're
Right.
rather to do it. You know what I mean? So which is pretty awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you really think about it, that's just like the old school way of doing it before. Don't talk too much. Just keep doing the work. The videos are consistently dropping every week, even though there's a pandemic, right? They're
Right.
still paying people to go shoot, and those things are expensive. The facilities that we're working in
Right.
are like, they buy out the whole facility because they don't want nobody to get sick.
Right.
So
And then
you know how much you know how much money.
trafficking, all the PPE stuff, that all is
Come on, you know how much they spend.
how much.
The whole facility is only for me. It's only for my show for
Yeah.
4 hours. Just imagine how much that costs. You know what I'm saying? Like,
This is New York.
exactly. And so they're willing to take that hit to be able to show and have the conversation about change, and it's really cool. And I stand behind them. I
Yeah.
stand with them because I chose to be there. I didn't get handpicked or any of that sort. I chose to be there, and so I'm here for the long run. I'm here to make sure that the narrative really changes, because that's kind of my mo. That's what I do.
Yeah.
So
And I
I
mean,
want to be able to continue it.
for however you take my word, I can attest, that Chef Harold is very authentic in what he does. Um, you kind of see this shit play out in real time, with the comments where like I'm thinking, here I am when I watch these videos, I'm like, yo, a lot of these comments are very demoralizing, but these guys are killing it with the videos. They're having the uncomfortable conversations, the ingredients, everything they're using, there's a context to everything. This is real, like, exploration of different ethnic things that's being presented in an authentic manner, as opposed to being appropriated and packaged and the cultural value extricated before it's presented to you. But I'm seeing all these comments. I'm seeing that's like, yo, this must be very demoralizing for these people that are taking on the mantle to do this work. But then you realize also that it's like, to really push the needle forward on these kind of things, you have the first wave of martyrs so that the
Yeah.
second wave can thrive.
Hmm.
And it's a lot like, the immigrant generation, first generation, second generation. You can't have the privilege of being jaded until you're second generation and beyond in America.
That's it, man. You got it. You got it. That's it. Somebody has to eat the bullet right now, and we were willing to do it. This group is willing to do it because nobody else wanted to do it. They invited a lot of people to come on this to come on this shit, and nobody wanted to be a part of it. So that also shows what type of people are out there, right?
Right.
They don't know who they are. They're not willing to be vulnerable. They're not willing to take a hit. They're not willing to fight through to make progress. And so people can talk all that shit that they want to talk, but none of them are really doing the work. You know what I'm saying? So for us, we're getting ready to do the work.
Yeah.
We're just happy to be part of it, and we're tokenism and all that. That's just bullshit. because
Yep.
we're ready to rock and roll, you know. And by the way, my video is about to drop right now. Let's stop this recording. Let's stop this recording. I need to do some Instagram stuff. Okay.
So it looks like Chef Harold had to leave. He's a very busy man. He's got a very high profile job now. So uh, any time that we can get with him, we really appreciate. And, hopefully we'll get him on here more and more. He really is a close friend of the podcast, and he's a very close friend of mine. Um, but what we talked about was very interesting, and we really wanted to get more into the Bon Appetit stuff. But he did say a lot. He had to go because the video, you might have seen it by now if you're watching or listening to this episode. But the video that he was alluding to that was just about to drop was the one where he made uh, o- onokome uh, onokomiyaki pancakes, and with ASAP 12e, and it was pretty dope. And the things that we talked about in the interview, you could kind of see those in the comments on that video, and just see in general like what um, where the conversation is at now, and what is the work that Chef Harold really is doing to push things forward, to make a change. He is, if you can tell by the things we talked about, he has committed himself. He's committing this last part of his life to service of others. And it shows, it reflects in his work. He's the one that reached out and chose to take the BA job. And, we talked about it. So, anyways, thank you for listening this far or watching this far if you have. And, please subscribe and like and share all of this. Go to our website, returnthejewels.com, buy some merch for the holidays. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Check us out at returnthejewels.com or on social media at returnthejewels to watch more videos. You can subscribe right there, or you can watch a random video right here. Like, share, and subscribe. Tell all your friends.